Omagyanantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurvanatanyena Tasmai Śrī Upadeśāmṛta. So we have come to the third verse of Upadeśāmṛta, and we can have a recap. Maybe we can have a pop quiz. Who can remember the first verse? If you can't remember the Sanskrit, it's okay, but you can remember what it's about.
It's talking about the urges.
That's right. Yes.
And it's the mouth. Speech.
Speech is one of them.
Speech.
Jiva Vegam, Manasakrodha Vegam.
Yeah, that's right. The first one, what is speech? Vacho Vegam.
Vacho Vegam, Manasakrodha Vega, Jiva Vegam, Udaropashta Vegam.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. Those are naming the 6 urges.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main part.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the translation, you mentioned speech, that's right.
The tongue.
The tongue.
Vacho Vegam, Manas, mind.
The mind.
Yeah.
Krodha Vegam.
What did you say? You said crowed. What is crowed?
Crowed.
Crowed is anger.
Oh.
So that's 4. And we're missing 2.
Is the genitals a part of it?
Yeah, genitals is 1.
What's
one
the Sanskrit for that?
Upasta.
Upasta.
It's udar. Can you guess udar? I'll give you a clue. Damodar. Krishna's name Damodar. What does it come from?
No.
Damodar is the Damodar Leela. Krishna being tied around the belly. Yeah, the stomach or belly. Yeah, Damodar. Krishna being bound. So that's the name of that name of Krishna, who is bound around the belly. So udar is the belly. Upasta, upasta. To check the exact spelling and pronunciation, that is the genitals. So these are the 6 urges that we all struggle with in our conditioned state. Then the second verse, what is the second verse about? You have a good memory.
The jnanas?
The what?
The jnanas or something like that? I don't remember what it's called, but it's talking about like excessive.
Yeah, so what are they in general? They're qualities that are
unfavorable.
Unfavorable.
Okay.
Not helpful, unfavorable. So 6 qualities that are unfavorable.
Okay.
So does anyone remember any of those?
Gossip.
Gossip? Do you remember the Sanskrit?
No.
I'm sure you've heard that one from your mom. Prajalpa. Yeah, so you know. Prajalpa. So mundane talk or gossip, we have 1 so far. What else?
Overaccumulation.
Overaccumulation. Very good. Overaccumulation.
Too much knowledge?
It can mean anything. Literally, atyahara means overeating. But it means over anything, whether it's food or knowledge or clothes or memorabilia. Whatever it is, collecting too much of anything.
So is that the one that's talking about overaccumulation? Is that
That's overaccumulation,
okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Overaccumulation.
Bad association.
Bad association. Lucky guess. No, I'm kidding.
I know that.
I'm kidding. You know that. So we have 3 so far, right?
Bad association, overaccumulation.
Bad association, overaccumulation, gossip.
Over-endeavoring.
Over-endeavoring, very good. Prayashash. Prayashash. Were you going to say something?
Is the too close or too far from the rules part of that one?
Very good, yeah. Niyamagraha, to be too strict about the rules or to be too loose about the rules. So we're missing 1 more. What else? Atyahara, Prayashastra, Pajalpa, Niyamagraha, Janasangas. Oh yeah, the last one. That's a little difficult. Laulyam.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this.
Laulyam.
Referring to fickleness.
Yes. Very good. Good
Yeah,
memory.
that was a good one.
Yeah, fickleness. Fickleness of the mind, weakness of the mind. To very easily enter into anything everything and anything at any moment, right? You just totally lose your focus. You get swept away with some idea, or some activity, or whatever. Okay, so these are the first two verses, the 6 urges, 6 unfavorable qualities. And now the third verse we've come to, dun, dun, 6 favorable qualities. So now we've cleared away the dirt, and now the positive side begins. You're not looking up Ohe Vaishnava Thakur, because they're all listed in Ohe Vaishnava Thakur. That was a discreet, nice try.
I'm not allowed to look.
Go ahead. We'll have an open book exam.
And then tomorrow we'll
the
have
exam
the
will be
pop quiz.
tomorrow. So the third verse, 6 favorable qualities.
Oh, okay. Maybe I
What are the 6 favorable qualities? Anyone remember any qualities?
Good association.
That was a lucky guess.
No, I wasn't.
I'll give you a clue. Association is mentioned twice in this verse.
Sadhu Sangha.
So,
Accepted.
Utsaha.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah, see, I mean, Utsahan, enthusiasm, to be enthusiastic. To have enthusiasm for the faith, for the practice of Krishna consciousness. This is utsaha. And, to be ready, one way we can understand enthusiasm is like an active expression of faith. Right? Like sometimes we can have faith, but it's kind of like an armchair type of faith. You'll talk about how you have faith, but you never really act on it. You don't really make an effort, right? And I always remember this one occasion we heard from our Guru Dev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you remember this story, he was outside on a veranda giving a talk. And veranda, you know what a veranda is? Like an outdoor air, like this is a veranda. Like there will be a cover, but it's open, right? So they were sitting. I'm explaining because it's part of understanding the story, not just because I'm being pedantic. The veranda is, and it started to rain, right? So they're in the open air, but they're covered, and it's raining. And nearby, outside on the grounds, there was like a sink area where they would clean the deity paraphernalia. Like you'll have seen in Navadvip, right? They have designated outside sink areas where the deity, like plates and bowls and so on, would be cleansed. And so there was some deity paraphernalia that had been left out, and it started like pouring down rain, and there's mud splashing, and Saraswati Thakur was giving a lecture that time, and maybe he glanced over at that paraphernalia, and then there was one brahmachari in the group who was listening. He just jumped up, ran out into this heavy rain to get the deity paraphernalia, and Saraswati Thakur was very pleased, and he said, "This is utsaha. This is utsaha. This is an example of enthusiasm." So to have this type of natural, inspiration, enthusiasm for service, for the practice, this is very valuable. This is our currency, we could say. We could also equate this with lolyam, but this is another connotation. This word lolyam, it has a range of meaning. It also means greed. And it's sometimes used in a positive sense, in the sense of having greed for Krishna consciousness. Right? Having hunger. Hunger for spiritual life. Earnestness. So I'm also reminded now of another incident I heard. Srila Maharaj tells us in one talk that once Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was out driving in his car, and it was raining also on that occasion, and there was like some muddy road, and so the car is going slowly, and there was one disciple at that time who happened to come out, or who was walking on that road, and he was like a well-to-do gentleman. And he saw Saraswati Thakur coming in his car, and he immediately went and laid flat in the ground, and it was like muddy, and they gave full Dandavat to Saraswati Thakur. And Saraswati Thakur stopped the car, and he said, "Why are you doing this? Why are you, contaminating your clothes, and why are you doing this?" And he said this. He made this very beautiful expression. He said that we only have one thing to do in life, that is to bow to the Vaishnava. So if I cannot do that, then what is the value of my life? Very beautiful expression. So we can also say this is an example of utsaha. And we can say going out on Nagar Sankirtan on the streets of Sanskrit, this is also utsaha. Take some utsaha, some real enthusiasm to be able to go out with that, right? And put yourself at the mercy of the people who may ridicule you and laugh at you in so many ways, but to go out boldly and share your faith with the world, that takes some utsaha, right? That takes some real enthusiasm. So we got to have a little taste of that, isn't it? Going to wash the pots when no one else is doing it, needs to be done, that's utsaha too. Jumping in to do the seva and somebody forgot. That's utsaha. Spontaneous service movement, that is very valuable, very precious. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati kriyatam jarikutopi labhyate tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukriter na labhyate. That this is a verse of Rupa Goswami that's often quoted by our gurus, saying that the only price for Krishna consciousness is your own desire for it. That's the only ticket, or the only thing that will buy the ticket. It's Krishna Bhakti Rasa Vavitamati. It's an incredible expression. It's saying that this mati means the mind or the consciousness, this mind that is steeped, Krishna Bhakti Rasa, which is steeped in the ecstasy of devotion to Krishna. This type of consciousness is extremely rare to find. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Vavitamati Kriyatam Janikuto Pilabhyate. Yadikutopi labhyate. If you happen to find it anywhere, it's so rare, but if you happen to find it anywhere, what should you do? Kriyatam means you must buy it. You must purchase it immediately. However, how can you buy it? Koti janma sukriter na labhyate. Many thousands of lifetimes of pious activities won't get you this. In other words, you can do the right thing and go through the motions for thousands of lifetimes and you won't get it. You won't get this type of rich, ecstatic devotion for Krishna. So Janma Koti Sukriterna Labhyate Tacha Lolyam Api Mulyam Ekalam. Only through your lolyam, through your own desire for it, through your own hunger, your own taste for it. Mulya means the root. Tacha lolyam api mulyam ekalam. Ek means one. Means it's the only way. There's no other way. There's no secret society. There's no secret ritual. There's no secret magic pill. But just, you have to want it. You have to really want it. That's the only price. So, Tacha lolyam api mulyam ekalam. Janma Koti Sukriter. Very, very beautiful verse. So utsaha. Utsahan nishchaya. Nishchaya. This nishchaya, it means conviction. It means confidence. Right? Some range of meaning there. Conviction, I believe, in the sense of like a firm faith. firm faith. And then also confidence is also implied. So to have confidence on the path, not to be discouraged, right? Because we may have our faults, various types of weaknesses and faults, but we have connection to our divine guardians, right? We have connection to the Lord and to our Gurus and the Vaishnavas. By their grace, by their grace upon us, we shall overcome. So we should have that type of confidence that they will help us. That we may not get this on our own strength, but we will get this because of the strength of our Gurus, right? The power of our Gurus and their mercy. Gurudev, there was that occasion, right, when our Gurudev was a little offended because there was one shloka he had written, and Gurudev was very talented, in Sanskrit composition, but Gurudev had written this one verse, and someone who saw it said, "You remember the story?" He said, "I don't believe that you wrote this." He thought, he said, "Your Guru Maharaj actually wrote this, right? But you couldn't write something like this." And our Gurudev was offended by that, not on his own behalf, but because he thought, what his feeling was that my Guru Maharaj is so great, and his mercy is so great, that someone should believe that by the mercy of my Guru, I would be able to do this. Because my Guru is so great. So by his grace, I can, even my humble self, I can achieve something great. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim tatkripa tamaham bande Shri Guru dinataranam. That by the grace of Shri Guru, Mukam karoti vachalam, who is a mute person, who has no ability to speak, they can become a great orator or great poet. And pangum langaya tegirim, and a lame person, a person who cannot walk, they will be able to cross mountains. This is possible by the grace of Guru. So this type of conviction. One thing Gurudev said that some of the god brothers of Srila Śrī Upadeśāmṛta, they would tell our Gurudev, you are tied to a very big tree. Because in Navadvip, when the flood season would come, everything would get washed away. So all the vegetation, all the, garden plants and flowers, everything would be washed away. But then what remains? The big, strong, old trees with like giant trunks. And so they would say to our Gurudev like that, because like in a flood time, everything may be washed away, but if you're holding on to a big tree, or you're tied onto a big tree, you'll be safe, right? Because that tree is, steady and strong and fixed. Maybe we are lagu, we are light, we are moving here and there, flying here and there, but our Guru is heavy. Guru means heavy. That's the meaning of Guru. So Guru is heavy in the truth. So if we are holding on to his feet, we are tied to his feet, then we will be safe. We will be safe. So we will have some confidence about that. And then Daryat, this is very helpful. Daryat, anyone remember what Daryat is? Daryat is patience. And the spirit of perseverance and determination. Right? And because this is going to be a long journey. Right? It is not a journey of a few days or a few weeks, a few months, a few years. It is a journey of lifetimes, actually. And so we have to be prepared for that. Long road home. And so we have to have some broad view of what we are trying to do. And a part of that means, learning how to develop sustainable practices in Krishna consciousness, right? And understanding, what we can do, what we can't do, but to find a way to be able to continue on some level every day, right? Whether it's in the temple, out the temple, but to find a way that we can persevere in cultivating Krishna consciousness in whatever way that is, to keep that connection, right? Smartavya satatam Vishnu, Vishmartavya jatuja. To always remember Krishna, to never forget Krishna. These are the two principles. And so to try to continue that, in to whatever degree we can, day by day. And to have this patience with ourselves, right? That forgiveness of ourselves also. Right? Understanding that this is, like Srila Śrī Upadeśāmṛta says in one place, Krishna is not a sweet ball that we can swallow in one bite. It's not going to be so easy. So to have that understanding, this is a long journey. Right? We are approaching the infinite. Right? Since time immemorial, we've been wallowing in the mud of misunderstanding. How many ages, how many lifetimes we've been living in misconception. And now somehow or other, by some inconceivable causeless mercy, we've come to the shore. Right? You can say like that. We've come to the shore. We've come to the shore of the ocean of material existence. We're still not, on the land, right? We're still not in the safe zone yet, but we're at the shore. We reached the edge. We reached the edge. So, somehow or other we've come to this shelter, right? After going through who knows what and how many lifetimes. And now there's a whole total transformation of consciousness, that's beginning. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. It's not a light thing. It's not a light thing. The mira, Cheto, Darpana, Margin, right? The mira of our consciousness is covered with a thick layer of dust. Right? And now through this process of Harinam, Sadhu Sangha, right? There's some cleansing of that dirt, removing of that dirt that's taking place. But how many nooks and corners and cracks in our heart are there, right? And how many layers of ego need to be cleared. Right? Srila Śrī Upadeśāmṛta says in one place, it may take several lifetimes just to remove one layer of ego. So we have to have some understanding of this and be patient with ourselves, patient with the process, and to go on day by day. To keep a flame burning in our heart, right? To keep a flame burning in our heart and try to stoke it as much as possible. There's one talk of Srila Śrī Upadeśāmṛta where someone's asking him, sometimes there are very long periods of our life when we don't feel that Krishna has come to touch our heart. And Srila Śrī Upadeśāmṛta answered very simply and very sweetly. He said, yes, patience. And he quoted this verse, Daryat. This patience is necessary. We took ourselves so far away from home. Now we've pulled ourselves back. We can't expect an instant transformation, an instant divine connection and realization. You sit in the chair, please, Gina. Sit in the chair.
Last time we sat in that path, everything was...
Please sit in the chair.
In the place we were to Harinam. Namahat, I settled that question. It was big.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you something, Shara.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now. So, yes, and there will be dark days, there will be bright days, there will be cloudy days, there will be sunny days. But it will go on. Some days we don't see the sun. When we were driving back from Atascadero, we were seeing all these different patches of the sky, right? In one area, it was like full sun and blue skies. Then we drove like 20 minutes to a patch. It was like cold, completely cloudy. We didn't see a glimmer of sun. Then you drive a little more, then you come to the sun again, right? So the sun is there, right? We know the sun is there. But sometimes we don't see it because the clouds are there. So the clouds of our ego, the clouds of our mundane conditioning, they are sometimes very thick. It's a foggy day. So it's a foggy day. But we go on. We still got to do our day, right?
Yeah.
We can't give up.
Gurudeva would say to us, I never want to sit in an easy chair. Gurudeva Govinda Maharaj, I do not want to sit in an easy chair.
That's an expression, easy chair.
Yeah.
Is that an American term, easy? I think you may not get it because I think it's a British term. It's like a type of couch called an easy chair.
There's
So
a
Gurudev-
brand that's EZ, like letter E,
Okay.
letter Z.
Okay.
Maybe
But it's a
Google it.
play, because Gurudev liked to play with words.
Mhm.
So that's a nice example. I don't want to sit in an easy chair. Maybe Americans would get it.
It means like, because the contest was like, when you are so comfortable and everything is going well for you, your tendency is to say, well, I even forget my dear Lord, everything is going so well. But, and that's the easy chair. But if your chair is not the easy chair and you have some problem, you go around trying to solve that problem. What's going on?
It's funny, because I've actually heard physical therapists say it's good to sit cross-legged because you're like a little uncomfortable, and so you always have to move around, and it's good for your body,
Yeah.
to be because just be sitting comfortably for hours is very unhealthy.
Yeah.
So like this, you're a little comfortable, you're kind of shifting a little bit here and there. It's good for your health.
Yeah, and for the health, and also good for searching for some things like if you are in the chair, it's easy.
Yeah,
You want to
yeah.
just fall asleep. But if there is some obstacle,
Some discomfort.
yeah, then you move. You want to
Yeah.
solve that. You are aware. You are alert. So that's good. And we were sleeping in an easy chair so long ago, so long time. But
Well, I don't know about you,
yeah.
So Dharya, patience. So Utsaha, enthusiasm. Nishchaya, confidence, conviction. Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dharya, patience, perseverance, determination. Utsahan, Nishchaya, Dharya, Tat Karma, Pravartana. This is the fourth quality. And this means to follow all the recommended practices. So the Shravan, the Kirtan, the hearing, the chanting, the puja, the vandana, the prayers, the seva, the services, all these things. All of these daily practices, the japa, the harinam, sankirtan, with enthusiasm, try to follow all these practices. That will be very good for our spiritual progress. We can also think of it as like a science experiment. You put all these ingredients together, and the chemistry will happen. Right? The chemical reaction will happen. Right? But if it's mixed with these other things, there will still be some reaction, but it will be lower level reaction. It's like if you put sodium bicarbonate and lemon together, right, you get that fizz, right? But if you dilute it with other ingredients, there won't be much of a fizz. There will be some level of a fizz, but not very much, right? So if you have your utsaha, and your Daryat and your Tat Karma Pravartana, but then you're also mixing that with Atyahara and Prayashascha, Pajalpa, Niyamagana. Then there'll be a lower level face, lower level reaction. So the more that we throw ourselves earnestly into all the favorable practices and avoid the unfavorable practices, then the more of that reaction will take place. We will experience that chemistry. So tat karma pravartana, sango tyagat, to give up bad association. To give up bad association.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
A favorable one. For favorable activities, if we don't live near a temple, how can we honor those favorable activities?
Yeah, good question. Well, there are ways around it. You can try to designate your sacred time.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind sliding that bag over? This into the tissue. Thank you very much.
Didi, what was the question? I couldn't hear from you.
Oh, how can we honor favorable actions if we don't live near a temple?
If you don't live in the temple,
Correct.
favor the action.
How we can follow the practices when we're not living close to a sangha, to a group of devotees, to a temple. Then we have to work a little harder, actually. So we have to, because we don't have that structure and community around us, then we have to make the effort. We have to take that time out, right? Make some time. The morning is the best time. Our Gurudev mentioned that. The way that you start your day, it will set the tone of your whole day. So to try to take some time, even if it's only 15 minutes or 30 minutes, but to take some time to chant, to hear something, or to read something, or if you're lucky enough to have one or two persons around you who are also inspired, then to do that with them together, and then if you can do before you go to bed as well, it's also very nice. And if you can try, if you have some altar in your home, that is also very helpful. That gives us a focal point. If we have, you don't have to have deities, but some pictures, and have some holy pictures of the Nanda. Wherever Nanda goes, he has his traveling altar, and even some pictures, some holy pictures. And offer incense. It can take 5 minutes every day. Offer incense, flowers, can be water. Sometimes you can offer some food. That will provide a focus around your day, right? Provide a focal point where you're always being encouraged to make that conscious adjustment and connection with the upper world. And then throughout your day, you can also be reflecting on different things. And if you, let's say if you listen to a talk in the morning, then you'll be thinking about that throughout your day, right? You'll be making different connections in your mind, and different incidents that happen in your day, you'll be seeing them with new light, right? New awareness. And you will also start to see how Krishna is coming to you in your life. When you live with that type of awareness, you're like opening a space for Krishna to approach you. And you'll begin to see things are not happening randomly, right? But things are happening with some purpose. And the Lord is coming to you in different ways in your daily life. So, grihe tako, vane tako, sadahari bole dako, narota mamage tarasangan. In this beautiful song, I think, and we're just saying it. But in the end, Bhaktivinoda is saying, whether you live at home or whether you live in the forest, if you are always chanting the name of Gauranga, then Narottam is the writer of the song. Narottam wants to have your association. So whether you're in the temple or whether you're living at your home, if you're always remembering the Lord, you are always connected. There's no distinction actually, because it is a plane of consciousness, right? And so there will be this transformation of consciousness, and we're learning, like fundamentally you can say we're learning how to see Krishna at the center. Right? Generally in this world, we're all living as the center of our own universe. Right? Generally speaking, that's how this world works and how we all tend to think. Right? We all have our own little worlds and we're in the center of it, and we're calculating good and bad and making decisions based on our own individual needs and desires, right? But entering into this culture, we're learning to see there's a bigger world out there, right? And we're part of an organic whole, as Srila Sridhar Maharaj says. We are a whole that is composed of many parts, and we all have our purpose as contributors to that center, right? And that common good, right? And that is ultimately Krishna and his desire, his will. We have a place in that beautiful world. So we're like reframing our whole approach towards reality, right? And we're recalculating what our priorities are, right? How we're seeing things, what decisions we're making. It's all changing around another central principle. How can I move closer in my connection, right, to the Lord, in my faith, and all these things. That will be our central principle. And so, we may be externally, it was something our Gurudev would say a lot, like we may be externally engaged in mundane activities, but the inner consciousness is completely different. Right? We're not thinking, oh, this is my house, my car, but actually I'm just caretaker. Right? I'm a caretaker of all of these things. I'm a steward. Right? I'm a steward. Not, my children, my money and all these things, but we're seeing everything actually is ingredients for the Lord's service. Everything is the Lord's property. We are also his property. We are also for him. Right? And so we may be moving in the world like anyone else, but the inner connection, the inner standpoint is completely different. So there's this whole revolution of consciousness that will take place. And, another thing we can say is, when we're very hungry for something, we'll find a way, right? So by that I mean, like, if we really feel like we need to keep our connection, we'll find a way to do that. By hook or by crook. Necessity is the mother of invention. We'll find a way. It's like, I'm hungry, I really need to eat. Just like that. Like, I really need to maintain a connection. So then another important aspect is keeping a relationship with devotees that inspire you. Whether that's in physical association, whether that's through Zoom meetings, whether that's through phone calls, or in whatever form, or may also be by listening to talks. But it's also nice to have some personal interaction with some Vaishnavas that inspire you as well. Then that will also help us very much. We'll keep our practice more living and dynamic as well. And we're also putting ourselves in a better position to connect with Krishna's desire, Krishna's will, opening a window of opportunity for Krishna to approach us, you can say. When we're associated with devotees, we will find that we're reminded, right? Like today, I forgot it was Ekadashi. Bimala kindly reminded me it was Ekadashi. Thank you so much, Bimala. Or Ananda will show me some wonderful quote from our Gurudev. Oh, thank you so much. So in this way, we're inspiring one another. Right? There's a verse in Bhagavatam saying, sometimes we will remind others and sometimes we will be reminded. Right? This is what association is about. Right? So to keep some type of active association in your life, that is actually the most valuable thing. Most valuable thing. So that is the next thing. Oh no, the next thing was giving up bad association, Sangotyaga, and then the last was the Tovite. Following in the footsteps of the Vaishnavas or keeping good association. That has been emphasized so much by our groups. If we had to pick one principle that was the most important, we can say that. Sadhu Sangha, Vaishnava association. And there's one beautiful expression of Jagadananda Pandit where he says, Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Nam, Ei Machachai. Have association of the devotees and to chant the holy name of Krishna, Ei Machachai. These are my only desires. Just these two things will give us everything. So Tat Tat Karma Pravartana, that's the fourth. And then the fifth favorable quality, Sango Tyaga, which is to give up bad association. And this is very interesting, how much this point is emphasized. Because the second verse mentions bad association as a negative quality, and then the third verse mentions giving up bad association as a good quality. So there's a lot of emphasis put on it. And in one place in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu goes so far as to say, Sango Tyaga, no, how does it go? A Vaishnava Char. I can't remember the exact phrase. But he says to give up bad association is the characteristic of a Vaishnava. He says like that, like it's one of the principal characteristics of a Vaishnava, to give up bad association.
I have regarding this, because how do we really know it's bad association? And I never gave up association. You meet all kind of people, and I say, yeah, that's a good thing. And I was trying to say, when was that I gave up bad association? So and how do we see who is the bad association? And if probably they are bad, but how about giving the mercy to the bad association? That point is difficult for me.
It depends how advanced you are. You're in a special camp. You're Nityananda's personal preaching party. So you could go anywhere, and preach, and you'll be fine. So it depends, Like someone of a high level of faith, they can go anywhere and anywhere. They can go into the bar, they can go into the... Well, I won't say anything that might offend anyone. They can go anywhere, and they will maintain their own spiritual integrity. Right? But otherwise, the general advice is to, avoid those who... If we're not firm in our own Krishna consciousness, then we must be careful about who we associate with. And association means to be under the influence of others. Because you can be physically associating, but you're not putting your faith in them. You're not vulnerable to them. You're not making yourself vulnerable to them, right? If we go out to the shop, or if you go to your workplace, right? You're mixing with all kinds of people, interacting with all kinds of people, but you're keeping it at some superficial level, right? A casual level, let's say. You're not putting yourself under their influence, right? So that is really what association means. So there's also the concept of giving association, right? So like you, Bimala, when you go out, you're giving association. You're not taking association from anyone, but you're giving your association and sharing with so much utsaha, so much enthusiasm, the message of Guru and Gauranga, right? So it is a subtle thing, actually. It's an inner exchange, right? That is what association is. So, but yeah, to go back to the point about giving a bad association, Srila Śrī Maharaj just made this point that because actually our natural tendency is to run to Krishna. And so, like our heart, our Atma is naturally attracted to Krishna. And so if we simply remove all the blockades that are in the way, it'll be natural, it'll be automatic for us to approach him. Right? Like that example is also given of an anchor. Like you're rowing your boat, but there's an anchor. But if you remove the anchor, then very easily you'll row your boat. So those, a bad association, and that also means not just with persons, it can also be association with different concepts, worldly concepts. We are associating with these different ideas, which are mundane ideas. So, it's not that we're going to withdraw from the world, right? We are in the world, but we're not of the world, right? That's the idea. So we are interacting with the world, we're living in the world in an integrated way, but we are maintaining our stance in a higher plane of thought.
Another thing that came up for me that I'm curious about, if this is in line with giving a bad association, is that also the ability to have boundaries with people and express those in humility? Yeah, definitely. Humility, in one place, it's in Golden Volcano, Srila Śrī Maharaj is discussing this point, and he says, that I am humble means that I am a servant of a Vaishnava. So who is our humility being expressed to? Are we going to be humble to someone who wants to exploit us? That's not a helpful, progressive type of humility. Right? We will be humble to our Guru. We will be humble to the Lord. We'll be humble to the higher Vaishnavas. Our humility must be properly situated. So yes, having boundaries and all these things, that can also be a healthy expression of humility. That I want to maintain my integrity as a servant of my Guru. Right? My standpoint is there. So if anyone's coming to compromise my inner integrity, my own identity, if anyone's coming and trying to compromise that, then I will reject them. I have to put some boundary. If there's going to be a clash, then I know where of course normally we try to live in harmony with everyone, but there will always be those who try to exploit or just have a lack of awareness, right? And so then if there's a clash, where someone is coming in conflict with our own identity and what is healthy for us, then we have to put up a wall. And then we have to put up a boundary. That is real humility, actually. But of course it can be difficult. We all have our own unique imprint of conditioning, right? We all have our own blueprint of conditioning, and we all have different types of ego that we struggle with. Right? So it's maybe challenging, but at a certain point we'll have to realize if I really want to be progressive on my own path, then there has to be a degree of selfishness there, right? Healthy selfishness for a higher cause, right? And ultimately, and this is the interesting thing, that in the short-term view, it may look like certain people are being hurt by that, but in the long-term view, everyone's uplifted by that, right? In the long term, those persons who, we've had to hold at bay, that will also be beneficial for them, right? That we're helping them to adjust, right? We're helping them to understand that certain things are not right, right? So we're helping ourselves, we're helping them. It's good for everyone. But in the short term, it's just like, sometimes a mother has to give her child a little slap, right? And, otherwise the child won't learn. There's this one, this is going a bit extreme, but there's this one story I've heard Srila Śrī Upadeśāmṛta tell it, and Srila Prabhupada also tells it. Of this one man, he was raised by his aunt. This was in India. He was raised by his aunt, and she was very, very liberal with him. Just let him get away with anything. And he grew up, he ended up becoming a murderer. And he ends up going to prison. And then we hear, this aunt of his, she went to visit him one day. And he started saying something to her. And she couldn't hear. And so she went closer, she put her ear to the bars. He bit her ear off.
Oh, jeez.
And he told her, this is your fault. So that I became like this. This is your fault, I became like this. Because she didn't teach him, she didn't teach him the value of boundaries and right and wrong and all these things, So that was ultimately, she's doing that in the spirit of being liberal and generous and kind, but actually she did the greatest disservice, That, a real guardian, real love means establishing what is right, what is wrong, what is okay, what's not okay, what I'm comfortable with, what I'm not comfortable with, what's okay, what's not okay. This is what's actually helpful, what's actually beneficial, for everyone involved. Right? It's easy to kind of become emotional and sentimental about certain things, but at the end of the day, we need to have like a realistic view, right, of what is what, and what's genuinely progressive. Not just some sentimental idea of things, but like real life, streetwise stuff. Like, how am I really going to progress in a way that's good for me and good for those around me and the environment? Right? But the main priority is actually ourselves. First, we have to save ourselves, then we can save others. Because that's another thing. Sometimes we can have this kind of wishy-washy idea like, oh, I want to be nice to everyone, I want to help everyone. But we're not actually, ready for that. We're not strong enough ourselves. Right? So we have to think, that's the truth, we have to think first for ourselves. And our Gurudev himself mentioned this, and he gave the example how on the airplane, they tell you, first put your own mask on. And then then others around you, like if you have children or dependents. Like, first take care of yourself, then the others around you. Right? And he also equated that with Shravan and Kirtan, hearing and then chanting. He also equated it like that. I thought that was brilliant. So first we're hearing, we're situating our own self, we're protecting and taking care of our own Krishna consciousness and our own well-being and spiritual life. Then we can do kirtan. Then we can think about others and share with others, right? And take care of others. So obviously we will always be kind, But sometimes we have to be a little cruel to be kind too. That's a more developed type of kindness. But yeah, about this bad association, Srila Śrī Upadeśāmṛta has one comment that if we remove all forms of bad association, he says, then we're almost there. The path will be clear for us. And we also maintain this type of space and hunger within us. Because, if we're like filling ourselves up with, so many different types of ideas and mundane practices, then it's like we're full, right? And there's no space for Krishna consciousness to land in our heart. It's like, if you go out and eat a bunch of junk food, then when you come home to the nice home-cooked meal that your mom made, you're not going to have an appetite, right? So it's like if we're filling ourselves up with so much, whatever it is, television or films or prajalpa, mundane talk, then of course we're human, we need some level of that, but we can't let it dominate, right? We can't let it dominate. So we need to leave some healthy space, right? Leave some space in your cup, right? To receive, to let that sweetness land in your heart. Because it's also like, you won't be able to perceive if you're searching so much for material sweetness, material taste, then you won't be able to appreciate the more subtle spiritual sweetness and spiritual taste. Because you're there's prakrita rasa and aprakrita rasa. There's material taste and ecstasy, enjoyment, and there's spiritual taste, ecstasy, enjoyment. So if we're so full, if we have this addiction to material sense pleasure, then we'll lose that sensibility within us that can perceive the sweetness of spiritual pleasure. So like yesterday you were asking about that expression, plain living and high thinking. That's also the idea behind that expression. That we try to minimize our material enjoyment and sense pleasure, because then we are able to receive the sweetness of spiritual enjoyment. There is enjoyment in on the spiritual path, in connection with the personification of love and sweetness and joy, and Krishna. There's so much sweetness, and we will be able to taste that more, when we leave room for that. Right? We're not stimulating ourselves so much with different types of whatever it is, drugs, intoxication, sex, rock and roll, or whatever it is. We're too much engaged in those things, and that subtle aspect will be clouded over. We won't be able to perceive that more subtle type of sweetness, that fine type of joy. So those are the 6 principles that are favorable. Enthusiasm, confidence, patience, following the favorable practices, giving up bad association, and following good association. Was that all?
Yeah.
Utsaha nishchaya darya tat tat karma pravartanat sango tyagat satovide shad bhaktir prashidyati. These 6 things will nourish devotion. They will nourish the little baby sprout of devotion that we all have in our heart. That cute little tiny sprout. Very small, very small. It will be nourished. It will be happy. It will be happy. And and this process, to a great extent, it will be unconscious, you know, that, and then it can be like, you know, weeks or months go by, and then we're like, hang on, like something's changed. It's like, wow, something's different, you know, like, wow, suddenly the kirtan, it's landing with more impact, you know. Or, oh, I didn't get as angry as I usually do, you know, or that person didn't annoy me as much as they usually do, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or, oh, I don't feel that craving anymore, right? We'll see. So we're exposing ourselves to all of these positive things and following these positive things, and there's some shift, right, that will take place. Of course, it is not always linear, right? And sometimes we have to take 2 steps back before we take 5 steps forward. You know, it's not so straightforward. It's not so black and white. And sometimes, as we go on the path, there may be some past karma or some old tendency that can suddenly come up and try to swallow us. Because there's also an aspect of this being a purging. So, you know, so like Swami Maharaj Prabhupada had that expression, like, you know, don't say he's dirty, he's in the shower. You know, the dirt's coming off. So there can also be this purging process where things get worse before they get better. You know, so there will be all kinds of phases that we may go through in our life of practice, and we have to have that determination and patience and conviction, you know, to keep going. You know. We're in for the long haul. And the most important way, the most valuable way by which we can consider that we're on track is that we still have some desire to hear this message. Right? To hear this message. We still have some desire to hear and to try on some level. Right? There's one verse in Bhagavatam, you know, saying that, you know, if all of like the good things that you do have not led to you increasing your desire to hear about Krishna, then it's all useless. Shrama eva hi kevalam. It is all certainly useless. So that is the best indicator. It's hard to know, you know, whether we're on track, you know, but if we still, there's still something in us that wants to continue hearing and trying on some level, then I'm okay. But it's when we lose that desire completely, oh, I don't want to see devotees, I don't want to hear about this, I don't want to know. When we lose that, then we're in trouble. You know, something went wrong somewhere along the way, right? So we have to also love ourselves. We have to love ourselves and forgive ourselves and keep going. And we have each other. You know? Śrī Upadeśāmṛta, he gave the example of the Napoleonic chair. Because there was one incident when Napoleon, he's a French general, right? You've heard of him, right? Famous French general. There was one occasion when he was with his party of soldiers, and they were like marching somewhere, and it came to be the nighttime. And it was like, the grounds they were on were very like muddy. It was like boggy and marshy, and so there wasn't anywhere they could really lay down. You know? So he came up with this idea that he put everyone in a circle. I mean, it's hard to imagine how they made it work, but apparently they made it work. So that everyone was like sitting on each other's knees. In this circle. You've seen it before?
I think pictures.
Oh, okay.
If I'm thinking of the right thing.
So everyone was like holding each other up. Right? Everyone's in a circle, supporting one another, and so they all slept like that. And they didn't have to touch the muddy ground. Right? So Śrī Upadeśāmṛta said, like this, you know, we're all holding each other up. We're all supporting one another. as our greatest wealth. And we're all in it together. We're all trying together. But now it's getting very late. We're going a long time. Okay, I'll stop there, and then tomorrow we can have or maybe the day after tomorrow. When we have our next class of Upadeśāmṛta, we will have a pop quiz. Okay. Do you want to sing Hari Haraya Nama Krishna? You want to have a go?
Yeah, I can try.
Page 60.
Jai Shlavati Sandhya Gurudeva Prasannā Shri Jai Shri Shri Guru Guranga Jai Hari Nam Sankirtan
Upadeśāmṛta.
Thank you all. You've been a great audience tonight, folks. Whenever you're ready.
So correcting from wrong to be Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Haraya Nama.
Hari? Yeah, that's more or less. Yeah.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah.
Gopala Govindaram Srimadhusudana.
Govindaram Srimadhusudana. Giridhari Gopinatha. Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohana.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Rupa Sanatana Bhakta Raghunatha. Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunatha. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Rasa Raghunatha. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Rasa Raghunatha. Echoy Gosai Kori Charana Vandana. Echoy Gosai Kori Charana Vandana. Yahoite Vignana Savishta Purana. Yahoite Vignana Savishta Purana. Echoy Gosai Jaya Muhitara Dasa. Echoy Gosai Jaya Muhitara Dasa. Dasa Barapadare Mura Panchagrasa. Dasa Barapadare Mura Panchagrasa. Radhera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivasa. Radhera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivasa. Janme Janme Mora Heiya Bilasa. Janame Janame Mora Bilasa. Echoy Gosai Jave Gaje Kola Basa. Echoy Gosai Jave Gaje Kola Basa. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakasha. Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila